Welcome, everybody. This is Our Android Week with Alan Furstenberg in New York, Bruce Turner in Lynchburg, Virginia, Duke Carrico in Kingsport, Tennessee, Kadeus Galut in Newport Beach, California, living the high life, and in Menifee, California, Pam Azure. This is Our Android Week. A little choppy tonight, not sure why. Welcome, everybody. Good to have you with us. I'm Dan. Kadeus and Alan are with us. So, first story is another iconic American brand looks like it's going down the tubes. Bloomberg is reporting that Radio Shack is in talks with Sprint. This is not entirely unexpected. The Sprint angle is, but they've had a good relationship, and they basically become a cell phone store of late. So, the story is that the New York Stock Exchange has suspended trading of the company. It looks like if these things are true, and Bloomberg doesn't typically just make stuff up, that half the stores will be sold, or Sprint will take over the leases of half the stores, and they'll become Sprint stores, and the other half will be liquidated, shuttered, whatever word you want to use. Alan, it's, as I said, I'm saddened anytime an iconic American brand goes down. At the same time, this is not unexpected, and I don't know the last time I bought something at Sprint, maybe a little cable or something.
That would be Radio Shack, is what you meant to say.
I'm sorry, Radio Shack.
Of course not. That's because Radio Shack made a big bet a number of years back, and it was the wrong bet, and they screwed themselves over, and they attempted to dig themselves out by making even stupider bets, and they failed to do so. So this is inevitable that they're going down the tubes like this.
And explain what the bad bet was.
The bad bet was that the Maker Society, which had slowly been growing, was not going to grow any further. So instead of actively continuing what they had been doing wonderfully for decades, almost a century, and that's providing parts, components to people who were learning about things, who were excited about technology, they were just going to start shoveling the latest crap from cell phone manufacturers out the door.
So they no longer had control, because remember when they were at their peak, the TRS-80, or people jokingly called it the Trash 80, was a very popular computer.
TRS-80 was my first computer.
And they owned it, right? I mean, it was their thing. They weren't reliant on what Sprint going to come out with, or T-Mobile, or AT&T. They just became yet another commodity reseller.
Yeah, they became a commodity reseller with nothing interesting to sell.
I remember Pocket Repeat when I was a kid, a little like Simon type game. Kadeus, are you old enough to remember Radio Shack?
Just barely, just barely. I think I've been there once or twice, maybe once or twice.
What was your impression?
Well, I needed a little bitty like $2-3 cable, and so I went and got it for whatever.
For like $15 probably, because they were also marking stuff up like no tomorrow.
I don't know. Usually I could come out of there under $5, so whatever I was needing wasn't that big. So
all the stuff that you've said, Alan, coupled with the obvious online threat, because like you can get a fantastic HDMI cable for like $5 on Amazon, even cheaper if you want to go on eBay. But could you have saved Radio Shack? What would you have done?
What I would have done is I would have rapidly embraced the Maker attitudes that had been emerging at the time. So instead of saying, we're going to sell this stuff but not do anything about it, I would have revamped the stores so that they became places where kids and adults could learn about electronics, could learn about building electronics, could learn about building robots and computers and all of that stuff. And instead of, selling crap cell phones, I would have catered to people that wanted to build electronics and build cool stuff.
So almost a techie geek version of Hobby Lobby, if you will, with a family focus.
That's not bad. I mean, basically, I would have returned to my roots and said, look, we got our start by selling vacuum tubes and capacitors and a whole bunch of stuff. to people who were building ham radio sets, let's go right back to that.
Well,
And it was not going to be the Radio Shack that it had been, but it was going to be a lot better than the Radio Shack that it is now.
do you think that they were destined to fail because they went for so many footprints? They were in every single mall, strip, stores, and then you'd see.
No.
But compare that to a Micro Center, which is more of a regional destination, or a Best Buy, which is sort of a big box, but they're not everywhere with a little tiny footprint where you can't really have the stock to draw the hobbyist like you with your kid if
No,
you're getting
you
him a
could
kit.
have. I mean, I think, and that's really the nature of what they could have been trying to sell, is they could have been trying. The maker stuff is fairly small. You don't need big setups. Radio Shack could have been a destination for 3D printing, but they didn't go that route. They could have been a destination for a lot of things, but they didn't go that route.
And in contrast to Google, which is just cash rich, Radio Shack, of course, was struggling, so they couldn't have a Radio Shack X Labs, if you will. And I guess they made some bad decisions. And we're going to see other chains that are not tech, like will JCPenney survive? We're seeing Kmart Kmart, Sears, or Sears Holdings, whatever it is. They've been closing basically whenever the lease runs out on a Kmart, they close it. Even big companies like Walmart are in trouble, so we'll see. But it is an iconic American brand, and I wish they had fixed it along the lines of what Alan was saying, or along any lines, just because, if you give a good product and good service, and it's something people would rather get locally, then they'll do it. Or if they want it right away, they'll do it.
They were the only people at a time, weren't they?
You broke up a little bit, Cadeas. Again, please.
Weren't Radio Shack the only people that were selling compact computers for a long time before HP bought them? I think that was a key place to get compact back in the day.
It would have been after the heyday of compact, because it used to you could only get compacts in computer stores, and Radio Shack was still selling their own product at the time.
Ironically, apparently Staples is, I think, that's a Berkeley Hathaway, right? I think he was bragging on them that they were doing okay, or one of the big office chains. And I was surprised because like everything in there is like full retail list, ridiculous, and all that crap you can buy on Amazon. But I guess if you gotta have paper today because you got to print this stuff, like today I needed 1099s, and the ones I had, I thought were the current ones, and they were 2013, and Angie normally gets them and didn't. Anyway, so I was racing around, I would have done whatever I had to do to get 1099 forms, or I'm going to go to, IRS jail or whatever. So, but I guess some stores I'm surprised are doing well, but I am sad to see this. They're called Tandy stores in the UK. I think that's because there was a Radio Shack that existed and they couldn't use the name.
And the parent company is Tandy.
Correct. So they called it that in
Or
England.
was. And that's what TRS stood for, Tandy Radio Shack.
Oh. Alan literally does know everything. I didn't know that. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Next up is this thing I've been kind of referencing of late. This is this neat column. It's sort of a roundup. It's kind of basically a slow news week. Thank God the pending bankruptcy of an American icon happened right before the show, so we had something to talk about. But so anyway, so we see the new. Well, anything in here grab you, Alan? I guess they're talking about the lollipop stuff we talked about. Nobody's using it. I like it. It's on my Nexus 7. I prefer it. I think it's good. There's been some criticism. We see Samsung profits are having some issues as far as the cell phone division. Samsung is a huge conglomerate. It's not just phones, but that's the main thing we see here, of course, in televisions and things like that. But I think they build ships. I mean, all kinds of stuff. In overseas. So they're going to release an S6 and an Edge. The Edge looks like a S or a Note, but it's got that horizontal edge, or that whatever edge, and they've got like some proprietary apps. I think that's what Bruce has, or maybe he has an Alpha. I don't know. As much as they're paring down, they're still introducing too many options. But and then we
I
see.
think
Well, go ahead,
I
Alan.
think it's a sign. I think it's a sign that in a quarter where Apple announced stratospheric profits, Google announced incredible profits, everyone announced incredible profits except for Samsung. Telling you something?
On the Google thing, we talked about this Friday. If I read this correct, tell me if I'm missing something here. I read this. All the headlines were Google misses the mark, and I think it was like 0.2%, right?
Something like that, yeah.
It was like I'm gonna make 14.7 billion. I made 14 and a half. Dan failed. You know what I mean? It was something like that, right? It was crazy. But we've been so accustomed to them doing so well, and they did do well. They just didn't do, you know, they only won 3 Super Bowls, not 4. Uh, anything grab you on this list, Cadeas? Okay. Anything else on
Actually,
this? Oh, go ahead.
one one thing that I meant to look up just before the show, the whole, there's nobody has Lollipop. It looks like the official numbers were just released today on Android version penetration, and Lollipop has a whopping 1.6% of the Android market this month.
Is there any version of Android that has ever been produced that has less than Lollipop adoption?
Froyo has less right now.
Okay. They're still hanging
But
on though.
yeah, they're still hanging on at 0.4%.
I wonder how many that is. That's a lot though. You're talking over a billion, right?
I don't know.
Who are
And
these
remember,
people?
that's Android distributions that have hit the Google Play Store in the past 7 days or something like that.
Oh, you just set off my Nexus 7. Is there anything you'd
Speaking
like to
of
search
Google
for?
now,
Okay, Google.
Go ahead. He's waiting. Oh, he's searching for Nexus 7. He or she, I'm not sure. I guess it's a she.
So yeah, Lollipop's at 1.6%. KitKat is at 39.7%. Jelly Bean combined has something like 45%. Yeah, about that.
At least it's better than gingerbread being like 80%, which wasn't
Gingerbread
that
is
long ago.
7.4%.
Is what?
7.4.
Thank God. It wasn't probably, what, a year ago where they were still hanging on in the 30s or something, I think.
Yeah. Okay, actually, what the biggest thing that this tells us, however, is that the number of Nexus devices out there is pathetically small.
And that's a shame.
which makes me wonder why they can't seem to make enough Nexus devices.
Yeah.
So
I mean, because essentially the only place you can get Lollipop right now is on a Nexus device. So and I said this when KitKat came out. I said this for the later versions of Jelly Bean. What this tells us is exactly how many Nexus devices there are. And the answer is Nexus devices account for about 1% of the market.
Okay. I got a couple comments here. Dean Barrett. Are we on that? Are we done on that? Or you still want to go on that?
Sure, go.
All right, Dean Barrett, he says, back when I was in grade school and giant dinosaurs roamed the earth, Radio Shack was the only place a budding electrician could go for those little project kits. I never did learn to solder very well, and eventually biology took most of my attention. Oh yes, and there was a science class too. Still, Radio Shack was a big part of my early geek education. A shame to see it waste away. That's my sentiment. I'm not surprised. I'm saddened. And I wish they could have figured a path forward. And I'm not... Alan had a good idea. Whether that would have worked, who knows? Because whoever was in charge certainly didn't try that approach. They've abandoned that probably decades ago. Matt Malloy...
No, and here's the thing. They sort of started doing that. I was really encouraged when I walked into a Radio Shack a few years back, and I saw Arduinos and I saw, those kits on the shelf. The problem is they were sitting on the shelf, tucked away in a corner. and the salespeople certainly had no flipping clue what they were.
Yeah, it's hard with thousands of stores to find a crew that you could afford to pay what they could afford to pay that would have any knowledge or interest in those things. In the smallest of towns, there's a Radio Shack. I don't know. I just think, like I said, maybe if they had been more like a Costco or Super Walmart sized thing, where they were more of a destination, they could, draw more of a crowd as a regional destination as opposed to being in every single strip mall. I worry that that stuff became too niche because there was more competition from 500 cable TV channels and the internet.
Now, here's the thing. Outside just about every Radio Shack store, there was some guy selling RC quadcopters. Okay, at one of those little pop-up things in every single mall. Okay, that's what Radio Shack should have been doing. But instead, they left it to these little pop-up stores.
Matt Molloy says, and this I posted the Bloomberg story shortly before we started, so these are actually not show comments. I'll get to those in a sec, but these are on the story I posted. He said another brick and mortar killed by the internet. In a way, but I think really they were hurting before then. Sai says, "Is it live? Maybe we're not live. Are we live? I don't know. We have 4."
Well, we just started late as usual, which is probably what he was asking.
Okay. Oh, because I posted the post a couple minutes before we broadcast. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Sai. He will come and beat my ass. All right. So, anything else on that roundup? And I recommend it. We linked to it underneath, and it's good. I just started looking at that last few weeks. Google Now is now showing alerts from third-party apps. So I know that like among our geek circle, people are really into Google Now. Every time I talk to people and I say that, man, I love the Google app and the Now cards and the stories and stuff, I don't see widespread adoption in my non-geek circles. I mean, physically people I know here, and which is a shame because I think it's one of the best things they've done. Are you guys seeing that, or is this an aberration? I mean, because I see they've marketed it very well. I thought. I mean, there were ads and stuff, but it's kind of to a non-tech geek.
There are ads.
I think there were ads for Google Now, probably YouTube ads, right? Which only like kids and geeks would pay attention to.
People actually use Google Now, as far as I know. Even people outside of technology, I tend to hear people using Google Now just around town and stuff.
I've never ever heard someone say, "Okay, Google." Oh, Jesus.
But as we know, you live in the middle of the forest.
And as we also know, that's not Google Now.
Oh, that's right. Google Now are the cards. But the whole thing, it's all part of the Google app. I don't know.
Yes.
So anyway, so now, pardon the pun, now Google is going to include alerts and, data that's relevant. Maybe it could eventually there'll be, if you use one of those weight apps that you're trying to get to your goal, in the morning it'll tell you, don't forget to check in or whatever. Is that correct?
Well, what it does, Dan, it allows third-party people, so like me and Alan, to be able to put things into Now, if that makes sense. So they have a list of people who are doing it, like Pandora. I mean, the big usuals are mainly using it, but also there are smaller people like Avis Rent-A-Car and stuff that I'm noticing, that Japan Airlines, Jet Airways, I mean, that are also using it. I'm kind of curious as what they're using it for, probably serving up tickets, your ticket bar QR code or whatever.
I'm guessing it's the reservation confirmation information which you've been able to get into Now through Gmail in the past.
That's what I just read. Now cards from Gmail markup.
Yeah, and that's been there.
That's been
there for a year and a half now.
But it looks like Coinbase, they're actually now cards from the app. So Coinbase, which is Bitcoin, they'll serve up your coin information, I'm assuming. The Economist, Mint, Duolingo, there's a big list here of people who are going to be able to serve up data from the app that's made into Google Now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are we ever going to see a point?
Okay.
Are we ever going to see a point where when you turn your phone on instead of the home screen we see now, it's going to be some version of the Google app or Google Now cards or something. I would actually like that.
You,
I don't even know how to
You
do
can
it.
already.
I know you can do it. I said the default home screen. That's not the default home screen. Go ahead.
Alan's gonna flip.
this was my recommended app of the week. What, a year ago? 2 years ago?
The widget.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a noob question. I say noob. I've only used Android 3 or 4 years. Can I make that the default home screen? In other words, like when I first power on, it goes there. Or if I hit the home key, it goes there. I don't know. I'm asking.
You can even put it on your lock screen, Dan.
Okay.
I don't know if you can put it on your lock screen anymore. They changed.
You know, I haven't tried it on
widgets
Lollipop
work.
actually.
Sorry, go ahead, Cadeas.
No, I said I haven't tried that on Lollipop actually. Now that I bring that up, but I used to use it on.
I used to use it too. I've been told they
Jelly bean.
changed how lock screen widgets work, though.
And I'm sure it will change again. So I had, I love, the stories thing is buggy. I'd love to have that as the first thing I see. And when I hit the home key, I could immediately go to the latest version of the stories on Google, because it's not just news stories, everything, they gather from all of, getting scroogled, which I welcome. So anyway, are you out, Alan? Okay, Alan's out. Okay, he had to go. He's got a thing. All right, so next up is, I hope you could talk about this, Cadeas. This awkward. So the next story, Microsoft's going to invest in Cyanogen, which hopes to take Android from Google, according to the take on this story. And there was some bad blood we saw in the news between Cyanogen and Google. So now Microsoft, which is basically a running feud with Google, what is the allure of Cyanogen? Is it the ability to get rid of the bloatware, or is it they're better in certain ways? Are they more or less stable overall?
Not a
Is it
CyanogenMod user, but from what I hear from CyanogenMod users, that basically they say that they have a lot more options and a lot more features, like they can wave their hand or do a little gesture on the phone to do certain things without actually turning the screen on. So there's a lot more options in there.
What's your motivation beyond, like, you develop and have to have everything so you can write stuff for it? But what's your motivation? Do you prefer Cyanogen, or do you prefer one of the bakes like the Samsung TouchWiz, or do you prefer the Nexus?
I still like a pure experience. I still like a pure experience.
The one
Our
thing is you
phones
get it
already
quicker,
struggle
right?
as it is, and we won't. You said what?
The one thing, in my opinion, what I like the pure experience, but I also like getting fixes and the new stuff quicker. And with the Nexus,
true.
you get it very
But
quickly.
here's the thing: CyanogenMod, they send out updates. Cyanogen sends out updates very frequently, much more frequently than Google ever does. Like, I think they even have a nightly build where they send out updates every night. So
That's for the
they're fixing
hardcore, right?
Yeah, I mean, but they're on it. They're fixing their stuff. So I mean, I don't. It's just a personal preference. I don't really have anything. I've never used it enough to really say, oh, it sucks, or oh, it's great. But it's just I don't prefer it. It's I've never given it a chance, and I'm not interested. But that doesn't make it bad. Everybody that I know that uses it loves it and swears by it. I have not heard anyone say anything negative about CyanogenMod. So
The OnePlus is Cyanogen, right?
yeah.
Is it getting adoption in the U.S.?
Well, yeah, they have a mass demand for it because they have to do an invite system. So
But that doesn't mean it's getting widespread adoption. That just means they,
right,
The
the
next-
demand's high. People want it. So.
Okay. I know the hardware was good, and the cost. Hardware is good for the price, right? And it's a pretty affordable device. Was that the allure? Was it mainly geared for emerging market?
No, it was. I think it was geared toward straight to U.S.
Okay.
It was supposed to be the phone that's different. So
I guess they can make any claim they want because you can't get one, so they can say what. All right. So yeah, I'm not. Is it kind of is Microsoft admitting anything by investing in an offshoot of Android? This is kind of like what Jeff Bezos did with the Kindle Fire, right? They kind of and,
I
and
don't know. I don't
and
know on that.
also add. Okay, let me ask you this: what are the pros and cons? We know the pros. What are the cons of Google's decision to make Android open source and let anyone do whatever they want with it? Because we see that they've got they got one big competitor in the Kindle Fire. They got another competitor now in Cyanogen that they can't control either of those things.
Right, but
Um,
the thing is, they didn't want to control them.
they wanted to create competition. I know they
Right,
wanted to
they
create
wanted
an ecosystem
they wanted an open playing field. So
let the best OS string win or whatever.
I mean the developers started adopting it. I mean that's one of the reasons why a lot of developers got on board with the Androids because it was open and they didn't have to answer to anybody. They could just make something and then just put it on their phone. They didn't have to go through a check system to make sure it was okay to be on the phone. So
Okay. Back to Radio Shack, the good old days. You could just make something. All right. Next up is free Microsoft Office apps are now officially available on Android tablets. I guess.
I haven't used it yet. I know I used to try to use Google Docs on Google Drive or however you want to call it, and I liked it and it worked well until I started wanting to do a little more, and then I ended up having an iPad and using Pages, and I love Pages. So maybe I should give this a try. But the Microsoft the Office apps are on both platforms, or all three. So I mean that makes it pretty universal. I believe you got a little more options to edit stuff inside of Microsoft Office than what's in Drive currently. Drive is really good, but it's not great.
Okay. Wow. I just I could troll
Blew me
Cadeas.
up.
Yeah.
No, you couldn't. I got a button that I can press that shuts everything silent. So
Really? Test.
you really want me to do it?
No.
It's right there in Hangouts.
No, I just did a thing. Okay.
Yeah, you just mute for 1 hour or mute for 3 hours. That shuts everything down.
Okay. How come every time I start my show, people mute for 3 hours? All right. So next up, let me look at some comments here, see if we got any new ones. I got plus ones. Boy, I shared a slideshow of funny pictures from my dad, and you talk about blowing your notifications up. It's ridiculous. It's insane. I mean, I'm glad people like it, but it was just funny. Like you take a leak and there's 27 notifications. All right. Next up is okay. So they're discussing this Outlook. I guess they bought whatever company and they're renaming that Outlook or whatever. It's a big hit on iOS. And it's not getting widespread adoption on Android. But what do you think about the whole concept of?
I would say it's getting widespread adoption on iOS because most people only have that one mail program. That's all that they know, and so people are always looking for different options and stuff. So I mean, most of the mail. I mean, there's a couple out there, but most of the mail programs are proprietary. Yahoo Mail is just Yahoo Mail. Gmail is just Gmail. So Outlook for mobile is pretty interesting for iOS users. Android, we've always had multiple types of mail programs, so it's just yet another mail program they like, and they've built their life inside of it. Versus iOS is a little different. So at least that's my perspective. That's what I would say would be the issue.
One of the problems I'm having, like, I see they did Inbox, right? I'm not sure why they did Inbox. It's nice. I guess it curates. It's and it's similar to the way that the brilliant labels feature in Gmail, which separates updates, promotions, social, and your primary inbox. I love
Right,
that.
but that is also only limited to Gmail. You can't use Inbox on iCloud.com or something like that, or you're still limited. And so
Correct.
this is why
But see,
Outlook
so
for
I
mobile.
installed it when they did it. I installed Inbox, and then I was getting. I don't think it's as bad now, but then you get two, because I'm not going to give up my Gmail app on my phone. No way. So I had Inbox on there. So then I was getting two notifications for every email, right? It didn't detect and suggest, hey, do you want to shut one of these off? You know what I mean? For notifications. And it was just like, oh my God. And now every time I turn my phone on, it's like 75,000 notifications. So
So you just got to give up the Gmail app.
no
and then you'll
way.
be good.
Do you prefer Inbox or Gmail on Android?
I'm an apps user, so I haven't had a chance to use Inbox.
Oh, okay.
I'm still shut out, as always.
Yeah, they got to make sure it's finally honed.
No, they
before-
don't. They just need to make a checkbox that says that I understand that these put like Google Apps, like you're not forced into it, but it's a choice.
Okay. And then I see BL Achman has shared this thing, and she's saying that Radio Shack will sell half its stores. Or too bad, in my experience, they've always been a better alternative to Best Buy and other big box stores. Okay, so sadness ensues. Pulling of hair and gnashing of teeth. All right, so next up, Samsung removing bloat from TouchWiz, making most of it downloadable. So this is we discussed a while back, there maybe a year or less than a year, that Samsung had agreed with Google that they were going to ease up on duplicative alternative bloatware things, which made sense for two reasons. One, the Google stuff was better, and two, the Samsung stuff wasn't was expensive to make, right? And it delayed releases, or delays releases, and the users don't prefer it, and nobody used it. I mean, the last time I touched the stylus on my Note, but that's not bloatware, but like my stylus I never used, but Bruce liked his, but like a lot of the proprietary Samsung apps, I never use any of them at all. I just want, you compare
I just want them to remove TouchWiz instead of just making some of the stuff downloadable. Just remove TouchWiz. It's not necessary. It's just one more thing running on your phone to take away from your resources.
It's very difficult. Bezos has done a great job with the Kindle Fire series and creating an offshoot of Android with his own wrapper, and it's
But then
very
you shut
popular.
everybody out.
But then Samsung has not proven successful at that, which is basically they're trying to do the same thing, but they're trying to do like Kindle Lite, if you will. I mean, a wrapper Lite. And Sprint kind of gives you the real thing, but then they add their stupid crap. For a while, I was getting NASCAR updates. I have no interest in NASCAR. I'm not anti-NASCAR. I just not, I don't want to get a bunch of people mad at me who are fans of NASCAR. Okay. So this is a good thing, and we'll see, because I'm still waiting. I know that they're releasing the Lollipop update for the Note 2, so when I get that, I'll see. And what they said was they're going to make it, if you like any of those apps, you can download them, but they won't be by default installed and not removable. So there.
And that's kind of what, if you notice, that's what the carriers have done too. They no longer put the stuff on your phone. At least with Lollipop, they don't put the stuff on your phone, but it downloads, so it's optional.
Is it their choice, or is that a Google mandate?
I think it's a Google thing, because well, you know what? I've only seen that on the Nexus 6. That's the only thing that has Lollipop right now. So we need to see what happens when Lollipop starts rolling out to the new phones that are being purchased. But I don't know if that's just a Nexus 6 thing, or if that's a new part of Lollipop, a new rule of Lollipop. So a law.
Okay. All right. Any last minute stuff here? Any further thoughts? I'm checking the comments here.
I'm good.
Aaron Spencer, inbox is just for Google. Yes. Okay, cool. All right, thank y'all for watching. Any big Google news? Here we go. My Nexus 7. Any big Google? How come it only does that when it's plugged into the charger, and it doesn't do it when it's not? Does that make sense?
Does what?
Automatically, if you say the GOOGLE word, my Nexus 7 will beep like it's waiting for a Google Now command.
The older phones or the older devices didn't I don't know if they felt it would use too much electricity, but you didn't have the option to say, okay, Google, when you're.
See, there you go. Thanks.
Yeah, I know.
Did you set one of
But
yours
see,
off
like
too?
mine's is off the charger though, so I can do that off the charger. All the new devices will let you do it even off the charger.
Let
So
let's troll our viewers. Okay, Google, set alarm for 3 a.m. We just lost everybody. They're gonna all be mad at us. Oh my God, I just did it to my. Oh no, I got widget locker, and oh my God, it's repeating everything I'm saying. I'll have to make sure there's no alarm set for 3 a.m. Just kidding, everyone. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Any final thoughts? Cadeas Kalut in Newport Beach.
I'm good. I'm good.
All right, coming up on Friday, we have Google Plus Week, and I will do a quick check here of our Flipboard magazine to see what kind of stuff. What big Google are you? Anything you're thinking of? We got to talk about on Friday's Google Plus Week, Cadeas?
Not yet.
I see here there's a story. If oops, there we go. If you look at our Flipboard magazine, Super Bowl was badass. It was great. What a great game. I see that there's a story here. I haven't read. I've skimmed all of these. I've read some. I've not thoroughly read all of them, but I see someone figured out Time Warner's making a lot of money on internet. Bloomberg is saying that Google is working on its own Uber competitor, which is interesting because they invested $250 million in Uber. I think they own part of it, right? And then there's some stuff about the new Jurassic World trailer, the latest in that Jurassic Park franchise. And some interesting discussions about what it's like to be in a company and you decide to get a Super Bowl ad. You spend $4.5 million, and if the new phenomenon where if like the nationwide ad where they killed a kid, immediately tons of people are commenting it on all sorts of social media, so you get an instant reaction for better or worse, and that could be scary. And then this Vine for Kids thing, we could talk about that. Maybe Alan can weigh in because he's got a little one. So that's what's coming up Friday. Google Plus Week is every Friday at 8:30. Oops, I'm sorry. I've got my 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time, Friday night, Google Plus Week. This program, our Android Week, is every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And the inspector says Apple is better. That's the final comment from him. Probably one of Brad's friends, I'm guessing. But anyway, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. I'm Dan McDermott. Check me out at danmcdermott.net. Check me out on the Virginia Talk Radio Network every Saturday morning at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific a.m. right after CBS News, where I talk about the big story of the week. And anyway, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Thanks for the comments. It's great. Have a great Monday. I got a video shoot early tomorrow, so I got to get some sleep. But thank you all. Have a great evening. Until next time, have a wonderful Android week.